I don't know about you folks. This ain't working for me. Now this is a little better. Howdy folks, welcome back to Boondockery. Today's video is going to be a follow-up to my walnut dyeing video. Last fall I posted a video all about walnut dyeing. I discussed everything I know about walnuts, but the big thing that I discussed and demonstrated was how to use walnut hulls to dye fabric. And I had so many questions come up in the comments like you wouldn't believe. It's like, whoa, and the number one thing was like, what did it look like when it was dry? What did it look like when it was dry? Can you dye with walnuts? Other things like ACU pouches and bags and stuff like that. I had all kinds of questions, and to be perfectly honest with you, I didn't know the answer to some of them. And so about a year later, I was invited to go to the Central Ohio Bushcraft Gathering to present a demonstration on what? Walnut dyeing. And while I was there, I was able to do a little experimentation and tried a few things a little bit differently. And I was able to come up with a lot of different results, all of which I'm going to share with you today. Like I said, I was invited to go to the Central Ohio Bushcraft Gathering to do a demonstration on walnut dyeing. And while I was there, I had the opportunity to try a couple of things a little bit differently, and I was able to come up with some decent results. Things to hopefully answer a few questions that I was asked in the comments of my first video. If by any chance you haven't seen that video, I'll post a link at the end of the video and down in the description box below. The first question, well, what did it look like when your shirt was dry? Because at the end of the video, it was still wet. It was very dark. Well, this was it. This is how it turned out. Now, this was after several hours of boiling in the walnut dye bath. And in that video, I also showed a piece of yard goods that I had in ACU, and it pretty much matched perfectly. And so the fabrics were the same. It's ripstop, so it's a blend of cotton and nylon. As you can see, there's a huge difference between regular ACU and my walnut dyed. And another thing I've noticed about ACU is sometimes ACU turns a little pink. And it's like, ew. It's like, there's no pink in camouflage. Not ever. The adoption of ACU as a camouflage pattern is one of the biggest travesties ever bestowed upon the American fighting soldier. And to this day, it's got to be a huge scandal. I was following it when it was all going down because I was already aware of Crye Precision's multicam. And believe me, far cry from multicam. Multicam was in the testing. A whole bunch of other really fantastic camouflage patterns were as well. And they were going through their testing procedures as per protocol. And the commander in charge of the entire program walks in one day and says, that's it, stop the testing, we're going with ACU. You can just imagine what was going through the minds of the individuals that were, conducting all these tests. They had to be thinking, you've got to be out of your mind. Me personally, my humble opinion, I believe there was a little buttering of the bread behind the scenes. I think somebody knew somebody that was in charge of ACU pattern. But that's just my humble opinion, and I am entitled to it. Now, the most commonly asked question was, can you walnut dye all of the pouches and the packs that are in ACU? And I didn't know because I'd never tried it. In my mind, I was thinking, well, that's pretty much 100% nylon, and I don't really know. Now, I know that it dyed the Velcro beautifully. it dyed everything except the zipper, the plastic zipper. And so while I was at the Central Ohio Bushcraft Gathering, I happened to run across a person who was selling a bunch of surplus stuff, and they had surplus ACU pouches. So as you can see, yes, you most certainly can use walnut hulls to dye ACU. Just give you a closer look at this pouch. Now I am going to wash this in a washing machine, which I have not had the opportunity to do yet, to see if that will fade just a little bit to allow some of that pattern to come through, just like it does with my shirt and trousers. Now, the ACU uniform blouse I'm wearing right now is the blouse that I dyed at the gathering. And this is the blouse that I dyed for my first video I posted last year. Now, this one was boiled for several hours, probably 4 or 5 hours, and then left overnight to just sort of cool down. And then when I rinsed it out, you know, this is how it dried. And it's a little bit darker than what I'm wearing, just a little bit. I only dyed this for probably about 2 or 3 hours, where this was in excess of 4 hours. And this is just a tiny bit lighter. And the trousers I'm wearing, I'll give you a closer up view of those in just a minute. I actually had hot water using the dried walnut hulls, just one gallon Ziploc bag of them, which equated to 1 5-gallon bucket of hull on the walnuts, the whole thing. And so I took the hulls off of the walnuts, I dried those out, and when I did that, it equated to a gallon Ziploc bag. I heated up the water to where it was good and steaming. I put those dried walnut hulls in them, and those walnut hulls are about 5 years old. And it was still able to produce a good enough bath, even with just hot water, not boiling water, to have a decent effect. These are the trousers that I dyed in that hot water bath using the dried walnut hulls that I dried several years ago. And as you can see, it is a good bit lighter than boiling it for several hours. However, as you can also see, it is far superior of a camouflage than the original ACU. Now, if you happen to look on any surplus stores like Coleman's, Army Navy Surplus, Surplus Warehouse, any of those others that are out there online, and checked out the prices of everything that they're selling in ACU, you have to admit those are very good prices for what those things are, especially when you compare those equivalent things to Marpat, Multicam, Coyote Brown. All of it is cheaper, and there's a lot more of it out there because it was prolific for many, many years. So I did a little pricing on my own, and I found a place, and I'll put the link. Right off the top of my head, I can't remember what it is, but I found a link that you could purchase a large molly pack with frame, waist belt, shoulder straps, sustainment pouches, a 3-day assault pack, a complete molly assault vest with pouches for $189. Now compare that to the price of a Philby and an assault pack, a Multicam or OCP large molly pack with an assault pack. And that's not even bringing in the equation of a bunch of extra pouches. And usually when you buy those, they don't come with the sustainment pouches. Sometimes you luck out and you can get them, but not always. Now all of this stuff is used, and they say it's 100% completely serviceable. I found on Coleman's, I think that they have a used, completely serviceable condition, large Molly 2-pack, sustainment pouches, complete the frame, shoulder straps, waist belt, and the main pack for $79. I believe they also have a 3-day assault pack for 44 bucks. And I don't remember whether that was used or new. But the thing is, when you can buy something that's not camouflaged, it's not camouflage. I mean it, it's not. And turn it in to something that you can actually use in the woods, especially from fall all the way through spring. This pattern, walnut dyed, is absolutely fantastic. And now that I know that I can dye all those things with walnut hulls, I brought a whole bunch of them back from the Central Ohio Bushcraft Gathering. So I'm going to be able to do another walnut bath here within the next week or two. And hopefully between now and then, I'm going to be purchasing some more of that nylon gear, and I'm going to be walnut dyeing that. And that will be its own video. Now, as you can see, this looks pretty good. I'm going to go ahead and take a few pictures, a few shots of video of me in different positions in the woods, just real quick, so you can see just how effective it is. As you can see, this is a very effective pattern, even for this early in the fall. Throughout late fall into winter, even into spring. This is going to do very well out in my neck of the woods, and quite possibly yours too. Now, before anyone puts it in the comments, yeah, I know, this ain't camouflage. That's okay. I don't have an ACU hat yet, but I'm going to, and yes, that goes in the walnut dye bath too. Well folks, I hope that answered a few of those questions that you had if you saw the first video. And if you haven't, by all means, click on it, check it out. I have the link in the description box below, and there should be a little picture right over here too. Well folks, as always, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.